The Cardinals pick off Carson Beck not once, not twice, but 4 times on Friday night.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this Monday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my 6th year covering U of L, 4th year hosting this show, and I want to take the time to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week, your team every day. Don't forget to leave a comment in the YouTube section below, because as you all know, that's a great way to help the show continue to grow. It is much appreciated. But on today's show, we are continuing to break down the monumental upset from Friday night. Louisville defeats number 2 Miami 24-21 down at Hard Rock Stadium. The Cardinals picked off Carson Beck 4 times on Friday. It was a spectacular performance from Ron English's defense. We're going to give credit to Louisville's defensive coordinator, the rest of the coaching staff, and a good amount of players on the defensive side of the ball. We will analyze Jeff Brohm's game plan and his play calling from Friday. Jeff Brohm was in his bag. The offensive line was improved. The rushing attack, perhaps the most impressive performance from the Cardinals' rushing attack all season. Miller Moss, I felt like, had a good day at the office against the Miami Hurricanes. So there's a lot of stuff to discuss. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today to get started. Card Nation, I don't know about you all, but I am still over the moon after this victory. Here we are a couple days later, and just the vibes, the morale from the fan base, just got a jolt of adrenaline. It's awesome to see, and I'm hoping that this is one of those building or the foundation building victories for the team as they go into the back half of the schedule. They've got Boston College this weekend, and we will, of course, preview that matchup when it comes. But looking at this game from Friday, and I went back and rewatched it, and after the second watch, I came away even more impressed than I was in real time with the Cardinals defense. All season long, it's been, Louisville bent and didn't break. There have been a couple possessions in almost every game where you're like, man, that was a really tough look for Ron English's unit. But when you look at the overall body of work, it's really hard to complain. This was the most impressive performance from the Cardinals defense, maybe in Ron English's tenure here since Jeff Brohm's been back. It was a spectacular performance. They gave up 21 points. Even more impressive when you consider that 7 of those points, well, technically 8 of those points, because they got the 2-point conversion. 8 of those points came from the short field. Isaac Brown fumbles the ball. Miami starts their drive inside the Louisville 15. It's really hard to stop an offense like that when they start their own drive in your own red zone. But anyway, Louisville's defense bent but didn't break at times. They had some rough plays. They gave up some big plays. But for the most part, 334 total yards given up, 271 passing, and only 63 rushing. 21 points is the lowest amount of points that Miami has scored this season. And a lot of that is because of the turnovers. Carson Beck threw 4 interceptions on Friday night. Now, most of the Miami fan base will tell you that, Carson Beck gave the game away to the Cardinals. He gifted them 4 turnovers. And let's go through the interceptions because, there is some truth to it. I think Beck made some bad decisions. He made some bad throws. But you got to give Louisville credit for forcing him to do that. And even though the pass rush didn't get home a ton, the pressures were there. The first interception was in the first quarter. Beck throws it deep. It looks like it's almost triple coverage. And 50-50 Antonio Watts goes up, makes an impressive catch, and comes down with the interception. A little bit underthrown. Sort of like the second one. Pass is underthrown slightly. Jabari Mack makes a great play on the football and wins the 50-50 battle. The third interception came in the second half from JoJo Evans, and it was a couple plays after Carson Beck had thrown his first third interception. And then all of a sudden, you knew it. You knew it when the ACC officials huddled up. And you're like, oh, goodness, they're huddling up. Cleve Lubin hit Carson Beck almost simultaneously after the throw. Didn't seem like there was much extracurriculars to the pressure, but they huddled up after the fact and dropped the roughing the passer flag. Everyone on social media outside of Miami fans were like, here we go. 2024 ACC officials once again working to get Miami to the playoff. And then in an ultimate ball don't lie moment, Carson Beck throws his second third interception, this time to JoJo Evans. And I think a lot of this was because of the interior pressure. Louisville got home to Carson Beck from the middle of that defensive line, and it forced him to release the ball sooner. He throws, I would say, an ill-advised pass into pretty much double coverage, and JoJo Evans intercepts the pass. The fourth interception, I don't know if this is AI, but if that interview is real where Carson Beck says, there's a miscommunication, tight end ran the wrong route. Regardless, the ball is partially tipped. Even if it wasn't, TJ Capers was in a fantastic spot, made a shoestring catch. Great focus. And he seals the game with the fourth interception. The Cardinals on Friday night had a coverage grade of 86.3. That is a very, very solid coverage grade against a good Miami offense, because we heard all week about how Louisville's defense did not stand a chance. They didn't stand a chance. Miami was the most physical team that Louisville would see by far. They would get dominated in the trenches. They wouldn't be able to cover Miami's skill position guys. And to be fair, Malachi Toney is an absolute star. And Carson Beck was going to pick them apart. They weren't going to be able to stop the Miami offense from running the football. And looking at this, Miami ran the ball for 63 yards on Friday night. And the Cardinals didn't register a single sack. So that doesn't incorporate any sack yardage into the equation. They had 2.6 yards per carry. Mark Fletcher, 8 for 18. Jordan Lau, 5 for 15. Shamar Brown, 3 for 9. And I saw Miami fans complaining about the offensive play calling, and there is some truth to that, because Miami just seemingly didn't want to try to establish the run early in series. So maybe there's some complaints there. But I felt like the interior of Louisville's defensive line deserves a good amount of praise from this performance, because even though they didn't get a sack, the Cardinals' defensive line stood pat. They were solid in defending the run. Like, the run defense was a 63.6 grade. And I don't agree with everything PFF says. I think it is a metric, not the metric. I use it to support what I see watching the games. But I think that the run defense was much better than the 63.6 grade. Tackling 52.7, I think that was a little low. Pass rush 67.8, which is an average grade. And for a team that got no sacks, I think that that's pretty justified. But the interior got home. Cleve Lubin was disruptive. Wesley Bailey was disruptive. But even though they weren't turning those into sacks, because Miami's offensive line is very, very good, what they did do was speed up Carson Beck. And that was a point of emphasis going into this weekend. It's like, hey, look, you needed to make Carson Beck uncomfortable, because coming into the game, he was getting a clean pocket on pretty much 85% of his dropbacks. He had been sacked 4 times in the first 5 games. Miami's offensive line still did what they needed to do, but the Cardinals got more pressure. Carson Beck didn't seem interested in going with the checkdowns, and maybe that's a reason for it. Tried to go for the home run ball, and Louisville was really solid in the secondary. And there are a lot of kudos that you have to give. Over 10 players recorded at least 3 tackles. TJ Quinn, D'Angelo Hutchinson, Jordan Girard, Tay Holloway, JoJo Evans, Renee Conga, Antonio Watts, Jabari Mack, TJ Capers, Cleve Lubin, Caleb Perry, Wesley Bailey. Like, this was a great performance from all 3 levels of the defense. The defensive line, the linebacking core, and the secondary. Like, I credit to them. Credit to Ron English as well. And we're going to We gave some credit to him on Friday. Going to continue to give him his flowers because there was a ton of criticism over the offseason when he got brought back for a third season, and myself included, right? So I will happily eat crow, but as loud as the criticism was, I think the praise has to be just as loud, if not louder. He has turned things around, I think, in the name of just keeping things simple, better communication. The defense showed improvement when he wasn't up in the box last year, but down on the field. Just overall excited about what we've seen through the first 6 games. This is a top 20 defense that the Cardinals are putting out on the field every single week, and it's time to start admitting that. So huge amounts of credit to the Cardinals defense. But let's switch over to the offense. Jeff Brohm was in his bag on Friday night. We'll discuss. You're Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats like me, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better, from the player props to the money line parlays, even following the live lines during games. The versatility is off the charts. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today to get started. Having so much fun on this Monday edition of the show. Let's tell you about our friends over at Quo. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. Here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a new phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. I love how Quo lets your team share one number and collaborate on calls and texts like a shared inbox, so no customer gets left hanging. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services, including YouTube and now TikTok. 5 days a week, your team every day. Appreciate your all's patience throughout last week. Had to get a new camera, and the scope of the picture was going to make my Louisville flag / banner kind of look tacky, because you were still going to be able to see more of the external background after that. So let me know what you all think about the virtual background. I kind of like it a little bit. So if it's something that you think I should keep, and of course we'll switch between the football and the basketball stadium when we need to, depending on the show. But let me know what you think about the virtual background. But for the time being, I'll let you think about that and give me a comment in the YouTube section below. But Jeff Brohm had received some criticism, maybe rightfully so, for the first couple weeks of the season. Now, look, coaching is one of those professions to where it comes with the territory, but when things go right, you get praised. When things go wrong, whether it's fair or not, the play call could be great, but the execution was bad. If it goes wrong, the coach is going to get the blame. And look, Jeff Brohm, he's been around the block. He knows that. Nothing that I'm saying should shock anyone. But Friday night, he was in his bag. He was in his duffel bag. And you kind of understand, looking back, why Jeff Brohm has 4 career wins over AP top 5 teams. You understand why Big Game Brohm is a phenomenon to begin with, and that's because he keeps defenses off balance. I mean, look at after Louisville scored 14 points, they put the camera on the Miami sideline, And you could just tell by the body language, by the way that guys were moving around and acting, particularly the coaching staff. Miami was kind of scrambling to figure out, well, what in the world is going on? How do we fix this? The Cardinals are moving down the field with ease. Now, granted, to be fair, Miami settled in. They did. Miami settled in. But still, the damage was done early on. They scored 14 points. Louisville did not trail in this game. That's why I think it's so silly that there are Miami fans, and not the majority of them, because I have had some good interactions with a handful of Miami fans, but there are a sizable amount of fans that are out there saying, well, Miami lost this game, Louisville didn't win it. Really? Because what I saw on Friday was Louisville get the lead and not look back. Miami did not have the lead once in that game. Were there plays where Carson Beck made some very bad decisions and throws? Of course. Not saying it was a perfect performance. If Miami and Louisville play 10 more times, does Louisville win 7 of them? Probably not, but hey, that's why you play a team once a season. Game's not played on paper, it's played on grass. Louisville was a better team on Friday night. I still do think Miami's a good team. But anyway, back to the point that I'm trying to make. Even though things got a little bit stale after the 14 points were scored, and I think that part of that was one drive was derailed because of a phantom blindside block call. There were others where you just kind of got to give props to the Miami defense. That is a very good defense with a new defensive coordinator. So I think that I don't think it's from a play calling standpoint as to why Louisville, after scoring 14 quick points, they stalled out a bit. They went up against a really good defense, but they didn't look back. They didn't trail in this game. So the play calling was solid. Offensive line, I thought, was improved, and it came with a little bit of a switch. I think you're going to see the offensive line moving forward, especially on the left side with Mohamed Musa starting at left guard. There was some success with starting the Purdue transfer at left guard. Trevonte Sylvester, having him back at left tackle is monumental. He was great when he took over that spot for the Cardinals last year. Remember when the tackle play was iffy, to say the least, after the SMU game, and everybody's like, man, the offensive line play is going to kill the season. And offensive line play was good after that. Part of that's because Richard Owens Richard Owens is a great coach, and he had a great plan for that unit. Now, Trevonte Sylvester coming back after missing the first couple of games, it's huge because he's not the largest guy, but he plays with such a fire and passion and nastiness, and it's huge for this team. I mean, from a run blocking standpoint, and look, the offensive line play wasn't great. I think that when you look at the PFF numbers, it's going to be a little bit shocking. And the offensive line play was serviceable. I think a good amount of the success was because of the play calling. Miami had a 58% pass rush win rate against Louisville. You go up against Ruben Bain, projected top 3 pick, and Akeem Messidor, you're going to lose some of those battles. But you look at this, Miami could only pressure Miller Moss 26% of the time because Moss got rid of the ball at an average of 2.32 seconds. So despite the offensive line looking better, I think a good portion of that was because of the play calling. Quick decisions, Miller Moss on the crossing routes, getting the ball out in space, running the football. Louisville had a 61.2 run blocking grade. It's not great, but it's not bad. It's an average grade. The pass blocking grade was 33.3. That's not good. That's not good at all. However, again, I will give credit to the offensive line. I think that the line played better than they have almost all season. It's just a matter of, I think that those 5 that you saw on Friday, that's going to be the offensive line moving forward. And you won't face a pass rush as good as Miami's for the rest of the year unless you make it into the playoffs, unless you play Miami again. So the line was better from an eye test standpoint, but let's not get it twisted. Miami got home. It's just that Brohm was like, we got to get rid of the ball quickly, and they did. 2.32 seconds. And for whatever reason, Miami didn't adjust. You knew that Louisville was going to throw the football quickly. And for whatever reason, Miami didn't adjust. That's on coaching. And Jeff Brohm is sitting there saying, well, you know what? If Miami's not going to adjust, well, we're going to keep going to it. And they did over and over and over. And that's one of the reasons why Louisville won this game. So improved offensive line play, not great, but not bad for the most part. I think that the play calling made the line look better, but the play calling was really, really good. I mean, the trick plays on the first drive, pulling out all the stops, understanding the urgency of this game and not having a vanilla game plan. It was great. It was great. I thought the offense, there were some things that I saw on Friday for the first time. And the first possession of the game, I'm like, where's this offense been? So we're going to talk about some of the high points when we come back. You're tuned in to this Monday edition of Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. Card Nation, I want to tell you about our friends over at Monarch Money. In the year 2025, you shouldn't be scrambling with your money. I know that most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth between 401ks, savings, investments. It's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings my entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on my laptop or on my phone. I love that I can review everything and see my goals and just make better overall financial decisions. Monarch's visual dashboards and smart tools make it so much easier to understand where my money's going. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege for half off of your first year. Card Nation, when we come back tomorrow on Tuesday, we're going to discuss how this win opens the door back up for ACC championship game contention, potential playoff implications, and much more. We will discuss Chris Bell, in my opinion, being a first-round wide receiver. But all that coming up on tomorrow's show. But for the conclusion of this show, let's take a look at the offense. The Cardinals offense put up 24 points. Excuse me. 21 first downs, 5 of 14 on third down, 1 of 1 on fourth down, 367 total yards of offense, 248 through the air, 119 on the ground. This was the most impressed I've been with the Louisville rushing attack. And I think part of that not only is the tweak of the offensive line, but also I think Isaac Brown being the most healthy he's been since early on in week 2 played a factor. He carried the ball 15 times for 113 yards, averaging 7.5 yards per carry. Now, the offensive line wasn't great, but Isaac Brown was electric in this game. There were a couple of play calls to run it on third down, which kept Miami off balance. And I think that that's the main thing. You saw how balance worked to your advantage. When you were able to run the football and not make your offense one-dimensional, it just had a positive impact all around. Your passing attack was able to be effective, being able to throw the ball quickly. Sorry about that. Can't stop coughing for whatever reason. But just being able to run the football and keep the defense honest was extremely beneficial. Looking at the PFF grade, the Cardinals, 74.4, which is above average, but against a really good Miami defense, I came away impressed with the rushing attack and encouraged for the rest of the season because you're going to play some. I'll just say it. Worse defense. You're going to play some worse defenses down the stretch when you've got Boston College, California, Virginia Tech. Clemson's defense hasn't been as good as advertised. SMU gives up some points. Kentucky, the 55.7 passing grade on PFF, pretty intriguing. Most of that's, you saw Jeff Brohm on the sideline. He was visibly unhappy with some of Miller Moss's decisions and throws. He missed some wide open guys, and Part of that's probably because Miami is winning those pass rush battles, and sometimes they got into the backfield. Miami only had 1 sack, and it wasn't from Reuben Baines. So the Cardinals offense did a good job of trying to neutralize his impact. But Miller Moss, I felt like, was good. I don't think he was over the top great because, like I said, 23 of 37, 248 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think he was good, but not great. He did enough to win the game. And what I was probably the most encouraged about is because we saw every single game, we've seen the best of him and the worst of him. We didn't see the worst of him in this game. A couple plays could have been interceptions, but the balls were underthrown. Thought Miller Moss had an overall good day at the office. He was making some good throws. Those crossing routes, Miller Moss did what he needed to do. You needed him to have a solid performance on Friday, and he did. So forgive me for not criticizing too much the missed throws. I'm going to choose to celebrate the good that he put on the field. And you saw the emotion. He was emotional after that win. He needed this win. He knew that Louisville needed this win. It probably hasn't been the greatest start to his Louisville Louisville career that he thought it would be. I mean, you got to realize these are human beings at the end of the day, and just seeing the passion from him, the passion from the rest of this team, it's awesome to see. And that's what encourages me so much about the rest of the season, is that you can tell this team cares so much. And it starts with, your big time players, your most recognizable players, the quarterback being one of them. And Miller Moss showing that emotion, that he wanted to win this game so badly, and he made plays. So credit to Miller Moss. Credit to Isaac Brown. The receiving core. We're going to talk tomorrow in depth about Chris Bell. The guy's a first-round pick. 9 for 136 and 2 touchdowns. They couldn't guard him. Miami's defense could not guard him. Colin Lacey, 5 for 39. Dakari Collins, 2 for 21, had some solid catches. Nate Kariski, Trayshawn Hurry, also multiple catches. Isaac Brown, 2 catches. Kejuan Brown had a catch. Once again, spreading the targets out. But I thought Louisville's offense, this was as close to the most complete that we've seen from this team, taking into consideration the opponent that they were playing. So I saw a good amount of what I was hoping to see in this game on Friday. What does this mean moving forward? Well, we'll discuss that throughout the week, but that's going to wrap up this Monday edition of the show. Don't forget, we're going to discuss the implications of this result on tomorrow's show. Going on through the week, we will preview the Boston College matchup and Louisville Cardinals basketball. Back in action with an exhibition game against Kansas on Friday night.